We have to learn to let go and allow life to happen through us without any judgments, without any preconceived notions, just allowing life to be what it is.
We're finding who we are. We choose between the left and right, the ups and downs, the darkness or the light. We're finding who we are.
There's only one reform in life. When you and I stop living from our heads, you and I are here for one very solid reason, and that is to learn to be loving.
We're finding our way together, just you and me.
Namaste.
Aspire.
Welcome to Aspire. We're going to look at one of the most controversial and powerful experiences on the pathway towards love. We're going to look at on marriage.
Higher and higher, until we finally sing. 'Cause when we seek, we find the answers. Life's a dance, and we're all dancers. Aspire, and just believe we can be everything. Aspire.
The Prophet. Of this most famous and treasured of all his works, Gibran has said, "While I was writing the Prophet was writing me." Born in Lebanon in 1883, the man who would become a famous poet, philosopher, and artist was exiled from his homeland for speaking out against the Turkish Empire. He studied art in Paris, then settled in New York City, where he remained until his death at age 48. But the Prophet lives on. Over the years, it has touched the lives of millions, a testament to the insight and wisdom of the man, Kahlil Gibran, who was never wholly and entirely of this world.
Then Almitra spoke again and said, "And what of marriage, master?" And he answered, saying, "You were born together, and together you shall be forevermore. You shall be together when the white wings of death scatter your days. Aye, you shall be together even in the silent memory of God."
I've been thinking about all the marriages that I have performed, the ceremonies I have performed in my career over the 17 years that I have been doing this. And I've got to say to you that some of the most tragic moments of my life have been spent doing wedding ceremonies for people. Basically, people think that wedding ceremonies are very happy occasions, and initially they should be celebrations, shouldn't they? But I think a lot of times weddings are the mark of a beginning in us, of a relationship with ourselves that we don't really realize. Let me just say this to you on marriage. Marriage has nothing at all to do with what you do with another person. When you are marrying someone, you are not marrying someone else. Believe it or not, you have entered into a relationship where you will find out what your relationship is with yourself. Marriage represents a relationship that we are having with ourselves, not just a relationship with someone else. And as I do the wedding ceremony, and my wedding ceremony is a very different one, very non-traditional, I find that the couple usually ignores what is being said in the ceremony, including this poem that Gibran gives to us, or this teaching that Gibran gives to us, which I read in my ceremony. You know, and it's amazing to me how many people ignore the depth and the beauty of what Gibran has to say about marriage. You were born together, together you shall be forevermore. You shall be together when the white wings of death scatter your days, and you shall be together even in the silent memory of God. He sums it all up there that you and I do not come together. People do not come together out of an accident. There is something born in us to be together. But please understand that marriage is not an institution. Institutions are for people who are ill mentally and emotionally. Marriage is not something that is sanctified or created by God. God does not create a marriage. God does not say marriage is good and this is bad and you should be married at a certain age and have children. That's us. We have invented that as humankind. No, marriage is something very sacred. And the sanctity of the marriage is not that the two people are together. but that the two people recognize the message of what's happening in their relationship as it relates to themselves. Your marriage, your relationship with a person in your life mirrors back to you the kind of relationship you and I are having with ourselves. And if that relationship with ourselves is rocky and difficult, then our relationship in the marriage is going to be difficult, because the marriage is just a reflector. There have been many times I've done the marriage ceremony, and it seems like always the male is the one that has the most difficulty with it. There's always the jokes about, do you want to go just before the ceremony, and we've got a cab waiting for you, this is the end of the good times of your life, all of that. We've all heard the jokes about it. It's sad because so many of us in this world don't understand that marriage is not to be taken as some sort of a commitment to another person. That marriage is supposed to be, in its truest form, a deeper commitment with ourselves, a much deeper commitment. Take a look at why we get married. There are many reasons why we get married. One of the reasons we get married, basically, if we can talk and be honest, is for sexual reasons. We feel a sexual attraction towards the opposite sex. There's nothing wrong with that. So to legalize or to kind of moralize what it is that we are feeling sexually towards another person, we get this license. And religion has a wonderful way of trying to make people believe that if a certain signature's on a piece of paper, that somehow the desire sexually for another person is legalized or moralized. It's an interesting phenomenon that we have, as though standing before me or any other member of the clergy is like standing before God and it's going to be okay. I personally don't believe that. I am just a man, and my signature on a paper, a wedding ceremony license or whatever, doesn't make the relationship any more valid or real than what the two people have between them. Another thing about marriage that we get married for is we don't want to be alone with ourselves. So we marry somebody so we don't have to be alone with us. We want to share our life with someone. That's how we couch it. But the truth of the matter is, we don't want to be alone. We're afraid to be alone with ourselves. We're afraid that if we're alone with ourselves, something might be wrong, that we'll get lonely or afraid. And my feeling about that is, if you can't be alone with yourself, what makes you think anyone else wants to be alone with you either? It's just an insight that I've had. I don't know. I think marriage has turned into a lot of things in life. And those things aren't necessarily wonderful. We have taken marriage, and instead of committing ourselves to the space between the marriage and the relationship, we abandon it. And we depend upon the other person to make that relationship go. We don't look at our end. We look at marriage as the fulfillment of all the things that were left unfulfilled in our childhood and in our personal life. But marriage as a real sacred thing creates an intimacy. And remember, marriage mirrors back to you and to me the relationship that we're having with ourselves. I want to go into that in just a few moments. I'd like to explore that relationship that you and I are having with ourselves, and maybe in exploring that relationship, we will find out more about our capacity for love, because marriage can be a wonderful vehicle to the unconditional love that lives within us. Please don't go away. I'll be right back. Welcome back to On Marriage. Probably one of the single most frightening aspects of marriage, if we look at it as a relationship with ourselves, is to see ourselves without criticizing and blaming and projecting on the other person what it is that we are seeing in our own life about our own self. It's so easy in a marriage to turn it into a battlefield, because here's how it works. What is unresolved in me, I will project upon my mate and blame my mate for the things that only I am responsible for. It's interesting in hearing people argue about their marriage and their relationship. He's not doing this, she's not doing that. It's such a useless argument because it's our stuff. If you marry somebody to make up for what you are not, you've made a dreadful mistake. And not only that, but you're imposing upon that person a responsibility that is not theirs. Listen to Gibran. But let there be spaces in your togetherness, and let the winds of the heavens dance between you. Love one another, but make it not a bond of love. Let it be rather a moving sea between the shores of your souls. A lot of people have a great deal of difficulty with that simply because of the word space and not making a bond of love. A bond of love is a promise that no matter what, we won't change. Everything in life changes. Love needs to change. Love is something that is very alive, more alive than you and I know. And anything that is alive has got to have the room to breathe. And breathing means changing and unfolding. When a couple gets together and they make a pact or a marriage vow with one another, they have no idea what they're getting involved in the beginning. They think that their relationship is going to stay the same. If it stays the same, they will stagnate and die in becoming like each other. You know, I see a lot of couples that lose themselves in the relationship by trying to be just like each other. They give up their individuality, their creativity, and their love to try to be a couple. And in doing that, they lose their own individuality. The risk of love is to become an individual and to let that person be an individual and create enough space in that relationship where that individual can grow and change and become a metamorphosis. A metamorphosis like a caterpillar turning into a cocoon and then into a butterfly. That's what a marriage should be all about. But what we do is we make it a coffin. And the moment somebody gets married, and you've heard all of this stuff, the jokes about the chains and you can't do this and you can't do that, now you're chained to this relationship, that is where marriage becomes an institution. And institutions are for people who cannot understand the love that lives within them. Gibran is right. He is very right. Let there be spaces in your togetherness. That is the artful way of living in marriage. That is the artfulness of marriage itself, of a deep relationship, because it causes intimacy. And intimacy comes because I respect you. I don't want to marry you to change you. I don't want to marry you to make you fit what it is I need. I don't want to marry you because I think that in marrying you, I will have something that no one else will have. I marry you because you are you. And there is the possibility between both of us of something very beautiful coming up. Maybe for love to finally blossom in a good marriage, a marriage of intimacy, a marriage of space, a marriage of respect. Love is possible. The formality of marriage in the beginning, when two people are standing before a member of the clergy, is a very small beginning. When marriage goes beyond a ceremony into reality, it breathes and it grows. It lets the person be who they are. Let there be spaces in your togetherness. And let the wings and the love of life unfold within you, changing you, making a difference in your life. In our country today, it is my observation that marriage has become a very big problem with us. We have disposable cups, we have disposable food, we have disposable garbage. Everything is so easy to let go of, and we have disposable relationships. We give them up like that. The minute something doesn't go our way, or the minute we don't feel like our projections are being fulfilled by another person, we just say, out of my life. It's really sad. To stay with a marriage, a relationship, is not to stay with another person, but to stay with yourself. Because the end result is that you and I are dealing with ourselves. Now, I'm not saying you should stay in an abusive relationship. I'm just saying, give it everything you've got. Begin to see that your problems in the marriage, your relationship, have nothing to do with another person. The problems have to do with our resentment towards ourselves, our rigidity, our wanting to stay just the way we are at the cost of the relationship. A good marriage really says, let go and change. In a few moments, I want to give you some how-tos. Please don't go away. I'll be right back on marriage. Welcome back. This is the how-to segment on marriage. We've been on touchy ground, haven't we? I want to give you some elements that need to be established inside of a person. And again, I don't mean to bore you. to be repetitious, but again, I want to emphasize to you, your relationship with another person is not a relationship necessarily with another person. Your relationship with another person is your relationship with yourself. It shows you how you are dealing with yourself, okay? They are a mirror of your relationship with yourself. A marriage needs one very important element, and from that element springs others. The important element is respect. Respect to let you be the person you are without the need for someone like me or someone else to come along and say, I need to change you. We've all seen marriages come and go. And one of the major complaints that people have is, I married you thinking I could change you, or I could help you, or I could improve your life, or you could improve my life. That is not showing respect for someone. You marry someone basically because you're on a very interesting pathway, an interesting trip, a path and a road that's going to lead you to your heart. And that is something you cannot understand with your mind or your intellect. You must feel it inside, and you cannot explain it to anyone. Let me give you some things that spring off of something called respect. Let me give you some elements of a tremendous relationship. The first thing you and I will need for a good relationship with another person is a tremendous amount of compassion. Believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, we do not marry perfect people. Many people marry another person thinking that that person is going to give them more than what they have initially within themselves. If a marriage reflects who we are, then the disappointments that we feel towards another person's character flaws or habits has a lot to do with our compassion for ourselves. Be compassionate towards your mate. If you develop compassion, you will let a person be who they need to be at the moment they need to be it. And if at times your mate needs to be kind of a flaming jerk or a jerkess, you let them be that way without the need to look at them and go, hey, get all huffy, complaining about it. Sometimes people have bad days. That's just the way it is. Some people are really working out some stuff in their marriage, and it's hard and it's difficult to watch them work it out. Respect is the compassion to let a person be who they are in spite of the embarrassment we think they are causing to themselves or us. Another element, and I know we don't have a lot of time, I mean, we could go into this for hours. You need to be in a constant mode of forgiveness. Every single moment of your life, forgive, 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 forgive. It doesn't matter. Forgive. Now, I'm not saying let a person walk all over you. For those of you who may be married to alcoholics or drug addicts or whatever, I know what you're saying. You're saying I should forgive all of that and just let them walk all over me? No. When you have self-respect for yourself, you understand that forgiveness is to let a person be where they are, but you don't have to play out their tragedy. I think the thing in forgiveness that is so necessary is it shows us why we're in the relationship. If I'm very forgiving, I'm not holding grudges and I'm not holding attitudes of condemnation towards another person, what I call keeping score on another person. Now I am faced with, why am I in this relationship? Why am I feeling this way about this person? Did I marry this person because I need to be punished? Did I marry this person because I need the pain to wake up? Do I like being abused? Have I had enough? You see, when a deep insight has been gained through a marriage, that's when you can choose whether or not to stay in it or move out of it. And that is a very important art to life. When to stay, when to go. When to work with it, and when to understand it is time to let it be released out of our life. Let's talk a little bit about divorce real quick. A lot of people think you should never get divorced. I disagree with that. I think there is a time, like in all relationships, where sometimes the two people have gone as far as they're going to go. Maybe because of their stubbornness, maybe because what they feel about themselves through each other is about as far as they want to go. And they get a divorce. It's not a tragedy, but I tell you this, what you didn't fulfill in that relationship, you will pick up later in others. And the interesting thing is about us is that we keep a pattern going, thinking that because we have swapped a new body and a new face, that we have swapped maybe problems that we have had and gotten rid of them. We haven't. We've sustained the same kind of person. It's an interesting thing to me how the same kind of person can be in the same kind of body. That person will reflect back to us exactly who we are, because that's what we need to see about ourselves. If a marriage is to be kept sacred, then it will be looked at with respect and love. And that's what Gibran was trying to say to us. Let it be a positive path on your trip to life. Namaste. I'm so glad you chose to be with us on marriage here as we look at Gibran's teachings on marriage. Listen, I got a question that somebody wrote to me about marriage. I get lots of questions about marriage. This person writes, why should a person get married anyway? I don't know. People get married for many reasons. Legalized sex is one way we get married and one reason. Have children is another one. Afraid to be alone is another one. A lot of people have a biological clock inside that says now's the time, better do it. I think a lot of us are basically afraid to be alone, though. That's my honest feeling. And I feel this way. If I don't like being alone with me, what makes me think anybody else wants to be alone with me? I don't know if the question is about marriage should or shouldn't. I think everything's appropriate. I think marriage is appropriate, and I think divorce is appropriate. I think children are appropriate. I think life is appropriate. I think death is appropriate. It just depends on the person. Should you get married? If you need to get married, get married. If you don't want to get married, don't. But please understand what the relationship is all about. To get married or not to get married is not the question. The question is, am I able to know myself, to live with myself? Am I able to give and share my life with someone? We are never taught in this culture how to share our life with another person. We're taught how to make money, we're taught how to get things, we're taught how to be tough and hard and cruel, but we're never taught how to be gentle and soft and to share our life with another human being. And for me, that seems to be the most beautiful way of finding out who I am. It teaches me more the soft end of my life. So if that's what marriage is for you, and if you can look at it from that point of view, I think it could be a tremendous blessing. Just all depends upon you, the person. Next week, we're going to continue in our series on Gibran. We're going to talk about on children, how apropos. First love, then marriage, and of course children. So do plan to be with us as we look at this very important subject of children.